Hi, I'm Dave Alvey, and for a long time I have been wanting to make a video to post up on YouTube because other people have put some things up there that have been very helpful for me in my situation, and I hope that it will help people that are in similar situations if they find my video and are able to gather some comfort or advice from it, then I'll be really happy about that. So I'm making this video in hope that it helps others. So here's my story in a nutshell. I owned an online education and marketing company. We worked with a college that used federal funds to pay for the courses that we sold. And in August of 2013, my company was raided and subsequently it was shut down. My bank accounts were frozen and I used up my assets on expensive defense attorneys for me and my management team. The attorneys were at the advice of a friend, and I think it was good advice. They were former federal prosecutors. I thought that they would be plugged into the system in the best way to help me navigate it. They gave me really prudent advice that was generally just reactionary. I would hear from them when the prosecution would, or the investigators would come to them, and then they would come to me, and we would figure out how to react. And it was a very emotional roller coaster the whole way through. In retrospect, their advice was really knowledgeable, but essentially it was just how to adhere to the system, how to play the game. One of their pieces of advice was just, let the clock run as long as it can, and the more time that goes by, it's better for you. I tried to live my life by starting some new projects, and I spent time with my family and my dwindling circle of friends. Some people will badly disappoint you as you go through this experience. And some people actually will show how amazing their character is by sticking with you unconditionally. So there is some good things that come from this, and one of them is you really do know who your friends are. After the raid, there was a dark cloud that just would hang over me so much of the time. I really just couldn't enjoy life. I really just couldn't enjoy just being with my kids, or all those sorts of things. I was always worried and processing the situation in my brain over and over again. It was a fear of not knowing what to expect and not having anyone out there that I was aware of that could really help me get clear of the situation. And frankly, there really isn't anyone out there that's going to help you get clear of your situation. Once you are in the federal government sights, legally, they are going to get you one way or another. They are not going to let go, and it's a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. There are just things in life that you have to go through, and I've learned that through some different things in my life, like divorce and things like that. It's easier if, in this situation, if you can just accept that you're powerless and just try to stay present, and just try to be there, present in the moment, with your family, with your friends, and just be peaceful with yourself. Because when I would allow myself to think of all the terrible things that could happen, it was unbearable. I found myself just having to live each moment or just suffer terribly. And like I said, I worked on some projects after the raid to open some new businesses. First it was a coffee shop, then a fundraising business offering stage hypnosis to groups as a fundraiser for them. I had traveled to Central America and South America before over the years, and my son and I in 2015 went on a backpacking trip in Central America, and one of the things I noticed in all these countries was they like American food a lot. Unfortunately, things like McDonald's and Little Caesars and Burger King, but they didn't have soft pretzels. So in 2015, I worked with some other people and launched a soft pretzel restaurant. It was hard work, but it was a great experience. I would be there for about 2 months, and then I would come home for a couple of weeks to see my kids. And after a year of that whole process, I was really homesick for my kids, and I decided to get out of the soft pretzel shop. I came home and started looking for a job. And after I found a new thing to do, a new opportunity, I decided to make a short trip back to Central America to see some friends there that I had gotten to know, get some less expensive dental work done that I needed, and just wrap up a few loose ends. So, for example, I owned a scooter down there, a little scooter that we use for deliveries, and I needed to transfer it to the people who had taken over the pretzel shop. After I gotten through TSA, as I was walking towards the gate, I was arrested by, let's see, there were like 4 people there, FBI agent, a U.S. Marshal, and 2 other agents from, I don't know, I forget where they were from, but I've taken probably a dozen trips in and out of the U.S. since the raid happened, and I had a return trip. I was due to have dinner with my daughter a couple of days after I returned, and I had an appointment to meet with my attorney the day after I was scheduled to return. My kids and family live in the U.S. I didn't at that point, and still don't now, have much money when they seized me and they searched my bag. They realized I had $250 in cash on me. I mean, I just didn't have much, and I think I might have had $1,000 in my bank account. I was taken to a state-run federal detention facility after I was arrested, and it was a dark and pretty dreary experience. Water was dripping from the ceiling into these big trash cans as I came in. There was mold everywhere. The guards were fine. They weren't mean people at all. But after I was there for a few days, I was transported via the U.S. Marshals prisoner transportation system, which means you're transported in shackles, hand shackles, leg shackles, everything, to a federally run detention facility. And basically a detention facility is where they put everyone, violent criminals, non-violent criminals, people who have just been charged but not found guilty. I think even people who haven't been charged yet, they're just holding them, go in there. So I would literally sit down and eat dinner next to murderers, rapists, and doctors and bankers. I was there for about a week, and a family who I had given a lot of money to because one of my siblings had some kind of spending addiction and sunk she and her family into debt pretty deep. I had given them money to help them get out of debt. They refused to help me get out of jail because I don't know why. But in the end, it was family who I really had helped the least that pledged their home, and friends of mine who I've come to realize are better family than most of the family that I do have, pledged their home for my bail, and they did it without hesitation, and that really helped me to understand how I really needed to carefully choose what or who is important to me in my life. And my time in Central America helped me to kind of understand that there are people down there that just don't have very much at all, and they have a lot more than a lot of us have too. So anyway, it was kind of like a life experience, aha moments for me going through this. I don't think you can go through this without having some sort of introspection like that. I was released and finally on bail, and for a year on pre-trial bail, I was made to wear this electronic ankle monitoring device. And I'm not sure that everyone who hears this is going to think anything but that it sounds pretty innocuous. It doesn't sound like a big deal at all. It is really intimidating. You have to have your schedule cleared with the pretrial officer. You go home early, for instance, and you want to just relax, and they might show up at your home because they can see that you're home, and they can check up on you. And believe me, they're not mean, they're not rude, they're not anything. But the reality is there that if they decide to misinterpret something, that they can certainly do that. And since your character in this situation, my character, is no longer considered good, I'm probably not going to be believed. So the ankle bracelet is also pretty difficult to sleep with. It constantly wakes you up because it's this big hunk of plastic where the battery pack is, and you bang it on your ankle, and it just wakes you up. Getting dressed is a pain in the neck to put socks over it. It also requires you to wear long pants in the summer because, you know, it has a stigma associated with it if you're wearing shorts and this thing's sticking out like that. So I was forced to wear it for over 1 year. It really felt like, just terrible. I caused no problems, and I had no violations of anything while I was on bail. I'm currently not on that ankle monitoring. I'm still on bail, but again, I have thus far had no issues with the parole, pretrial, whatever they call themselves at this point in my situation. But the downside is that the ankle monitoring, that doesn't count towards any time served for a reduction in your time that you might have to serve in prison. And it also doesn't count for, I thought at least it would count for maybe supervised release after prison to knock some of that time off, but it doesn't count for anything. So now it's May of 2018, and I decided to take the plea that they offered me. If I decided to plead not guilty to the charges, then I was facing, I don't know, they told me like 17 years in prison or something. And, obviously that was just unthinkable. So I decided to plead guilty, and the plea is for one count of wire fraud, and I have a $24 million restitution. I'm awaiting sentencing right now. It was scheduled for yesterday, May 15th, which didn't occur. It's now rescheduled for June 4th. Again, this is just the system. Your life is just not your own. You're under a microscope. Your schedule is their schedule, and it just doesn't matter. I mean, what your needs are very, very low on the priority totem pole of the federal government, the judicial branch of the federal government. So at a plea hearing or at this upcoming sentencing hearing, for instance, you have a chance that the judge will order you to be taken into custody right away. Hopefully that doesn't happen, and from what I understand, it usually doesn't happen, but you get points from the Bureau for a nonviolent person. You get points from the Bureau of Prison if you're allowed to self-surrender, and self-surrender means that you will, after sentencing, you'll receive a letter from the Bureau of Prison with the surrender date and location. It's just really hard to get your head wrapped around if you're in that situation. And basically, the surrender location is the prison where you're going to start serving your time. I expect to be sent to a prison camp, which is a low security facility. I think it will be Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, but nothing in the federal justice system is a certainty. Your life is just not your own. So I don't know where I will be or what will happen, and I won't know that for at least a number of weeks now. So my advice to you, if you have become the object of a federal investigation, is to not waste your money on expensive attorneys. That was a mistake. It just prolongs the inevitable. Hire a consultant that is someone who has served time and not just a year in prison, but somebody who's actually been there, has gone through the system and understands it. And you don't want somebody who, unfortunately, a lot of people that are involved in prison tend to be people that are very good at telling you what they think you want to hear, but then not really doing what they say they're going to do. So you want to be careful and pick somebody that you can count on. So my advice would be to go in as soon as possible and cooperate with the prosecution. Do not lie or omit information to them. Ask them, how can I help you? And then do it when they tell you how. Your ultimate goal here is to just pass through this experience as fast as you can, get on the other side, get back to, trying to earn a living and be with your family and, have your life. The best way to do that, I really believe, is just don't resist. The government has unlimited resources. They have a whole lot of power. You should assume that they are reading everything, listening to all you say, and just know that they're very skilled at using all of the information that they obtain to complete their narrative against you. And it may not be accurate, or it may not be correct, but if they can support it, with a good story, that's exactly what they're going to do. And they'll, they just don't, they're not here to prove you innocent. They're here to prove you guilty, I believe. So just don't give them any more of a reason than necessary to motivate them to pursue you any more harshly than anyone else. Don't make them work hard for your case. Be as cooperative as possible. Be open, honest. Don't lie through omission. Okay. So I'll try to keep posting here, and I hope you find it helpful. Subscribe to me, and I'll try to answer questions if I can. This is, still pretty new to me, but I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you can. And, I'd appreciate any messages that you send, or any information that you have that can help me. And until my next video, which I hope I will make, thank you, and